Hey, welcome back to the fatjoe Agency Academy. Today, I'm going to cover the inside story of why we've axed multiple six-figure services over the years. I'm going to break down 3 examples, including why they initially worked, why they stopped working not necessarily for clients, but for us, and what we've learned from them moving forwards. Kicking off with the first six-figure service that we axed way back before my day, back in 2013. We've got Web 2.0 hubs. This is a proper throwback. This screenshot's 29th of March 2013. And Web 2.0 hubs were basically PBN links, link circles, that kind of thing. At the time, these were super, super popular. Obviously, Penguin and Panda had started doing their thing a couple of years earlier, but for the time, these were still a really popular product with the customers. Like I say, doing six-figure turnover. The problem was that the efficacy of it as a service had started dropping. During fatjoe's own testing, they were seeing that this was starting to be a diminishing service, even if the client demand hadn't changed yet. And so they decided to be proactively removing this as a service before the declines really started hitting on the client side. Despite the fact that it was a six-figure service and really had that demand, they decided to pivot into what we now offer as blogger outreach. It was a lot harder, a lot more manual to start doing it rather than, 20 bespoke Web 2.0 hubs for 60 quid. Moving into a blogger outreach service where 60 quid might get you a single link is obviously a much different pitch to the clients. But it was a move that was made more for long-term sustainability. They could have continued chasing the short-term profit that was being made through this Web 2.0 service, and they probably would have made more in that year. But the moment that the Penguin and the Panda updates really started hitting, about a year later, at a point where the PBMs were getting absolutely nuked, then they would have just been left with no service left behind and nothing to offer the clients, and the reputation would have been in shreds. It was definitely a painful move for them at the time, and it's one that Joe's posted and talked about quite a bit, but it's one that was definitely made more for the long-term sustainability of the business. So in this instance, you had the initial market fit, and you had the fact that the client demand was there, but the reason that it was axed was for future efficacy of the service and the reputational effect that it would have had if they'd have continued offering it. And just going back through the archives, we do have here the Penguin and the Panda t-shirt. I just thought it was a good one to bring up. At the time, this was the Panda, the Penguin, and SEO is dead, which was a big term at the time. And again, was a reason that this service also, unfortunately, did have to be put down. Again, going back through the archives, the second six-figure service that fatjoe axed is actually one that I wasn't able to get a screenshot of. It wasn't offered for long enough to be picked up by the web archive, but it's definitely one that still had quite an impact on the client side and on the business side. With the content creation that fatjoe were offering at the time, content writing, they decided to start offering managed blog writing. So this was taking the content writing they were already doing and then going ahead, logging into the client side, uploading it for them to make it just a fully managed service. The clients absolutely loved it. It never really got beyond a sort of stealth launch, but there was easily the demand there. It was really, really starting to pick up. But the reason that they decided to axe it, even though that client demand was absolutely there, that was why the service was being introduced. It was one that had been brought up multiple times in like surveys and in client emails. It was one that we were clearly seeing there actually was the demand there. But they still chose to axe it. Not because, in this case, not because it wasn't going to be working for the client, not because the process wasn't going to work for the client, but because it didn't work for fatjoe. It didn't work on our end. Thinking about what fatjoe services are and what it means to be a fatjoe service, it's productized, it's easy, and on our end, it's easily replicable so that we can always be delivering the same thing. Now, the process here, sure, it's replicable. Go ahead, log into the client site. Seems pretty simple. But the time drain that was having, every client site was having different login styles, different uploads. You're having to get the writer to then go ahead or get an external person in to go, right, okay, all you're going to be doing is uploading these to these sites. It just was not a replicable and scalable service in the way that fatjoe wants it to be. It was absolutely a service that the client wanted. Like I say, there was immense initial demand. It looked like it was going to be a real good one, but it was decided to kill off, not because the clients didn't want it, not because it didn't work overall as a service, but because it didn't work on our end, because it wasn't scalable and it wasn't what fatjoe wanted to be. Once we'd broken that barrier of, yeah, sure, give us your site details, we'll go ahead and log in. It's such a headache. It's such a, well, now we've got access to their site. Is that something that they really want to be giving us, even though they do want the end goal of us going in and uploading the sites for convenience? It just, like I say, it didn't fit. So we were able to make some tweaks to the content services that we were offering, able to go in, break them down more granularly. So we started offering the blog writing, website copywriting, different styles, adding in things. So it was the genesis of a couple of years down the line offering the pro services where we've got the images and the links all ready to go. So it's completely ready for the client to upload. We've always focused on having it in the Google Docs. So again, it's really easy for them to handle, but we just decided to double down on making it as easy for them to then take and go on with, but just without crossing that barrier. Like I say, not because it wasn't popular, but just because it did not fit the fatjoe styling. And it's a really important one that, like with the first one, where you don't want to burn your own reputation. In this case, you just don't want to start being known for something that really isn't the process that you want to be building, because that can just lead you down a rabbit hole. And suddenly you're doing more managed services, you're doing more like work that, on-site work that just isn't the stuff that you at your core were wanting to build, or in this instance that we at our core were wanting to build. The third and final set of six-figure services that we've gone ahead and removed is actually an entire category. If you've been on the fatjoe website recently, you might have noticed that an entire category has disappeared from our main menu here: design and video. Now, yeah, it's still accessible for a little bit here, so you can still go ahead and find it in the site, but we are in the process of completely removing these as services. That might sound mad. We're able to offer, we've got the infographic design that's been around basically since the business launched. And we've got these video ads that have been super popular over the years, got a lot of repeat clients and a lot of buzz for them. So why we go ahead and removing them? It's because they just don't fit with where we want to be now. We've really decided to double down on what's working for us, really going in for the links, the PR, the AI SEO. And when we go into the content creation, it's really stripped back. It's just that blog writing and that website copywriting. We've really tightened up the focus. The reason for this is that when we were going to events, when we were doing our adverts, we were really stretching ourselves over what was doable and what it was that we were pitching to clients that we offered. If you think about it, like we're going stretching that entire gamut from link building all the way to video and design. It's really a lot of different kind of things. And like video and design can be a bit of an entryway to getting people in, but not many people are going to then graduate over to, say, the link building side, the digital PR side. They're going to come in seeing those design videos and then wanting more. They're going to think that we're going to do more down that side. Another point is that also these tend to be quite bespoke services. We really had a way of nailing down that these were going to be replicable, repeatable, and productized. But even then, there were still those clients that were expecting them to be that bit more bespoke. The genesis of offering these as services was a few years ago when it looked like we might be going down more of a wider marketplace style, really trying to be all things to all marketers. But over the years, we've just realised that focus is way more important. Being able to tell that consistent message of here's exactly what we're offering, here's who we're offering it to, is more consistent and more valuable than, being able to pick up those few extra clients that, sure, we'll offer you a few video services and we get a few extra in, but if they're not then porting over to our other services, and if it's potentially confusing people and putting people off and muddying the brand story that we're able to tell, then ultimately it's not worth it. Even if they are generating us that revenue, which they really were, it just isn't worth it in the long term for the business. Again, going back to that long term, like with the first example where the efficacy was undermined, and eventually that would have undermined the brand reputation that we had. In this case, it's less about our reputation. People aren't going to think less of us because we're offering video services, but they are going to be a little bit more confused by the brand story that we're telling, and that's just not what we're looking to do. And so we've just gone ahead, removed them, and yeah, we're in the process of phasing them out. And it will hurt. It will hurt the finances initially not to offer those services, but in the long term, like with the previous six-figure service removals that we've done in the past, we really do think that moving forward, it will be more beneficial in the long term. So yeah, there you have it. A quick overview of a few six-figure services that fatjoe have killed over the years and the reasoning behind it. Hopefully it can help you with the decisions that you have to make with the services and the products that you're offering in your agency. Really, I know it can be difficult to step back and decide to make that move when they are earning you revenue in that moment. But if you're playing the long game, you just have to be able to separate yourself from the revenue you're making currently to see what possible uplift it can have down the line if you start by any one of the offering the better services, focusing on a service that better fits you and your client deliverables, or simply keeping a more consistent story and not spreading yourself too thin. But what do you think? What services have you had to remove in your agency? What ones do you think you might remove? Or what ones are you excited to add? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe to the fatjoe Agency Academy. We're here to help you build a better business.